Hello, and welcome to Talk About It Tuesdays. I'm Tosca DiMatteo, your host, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Kiera Doyle, and she's going to be joining me very soon. So I'm just waiting for all this to kind of log on and pop in. And today we're going to talk about deconditioning. That's right, deconditioning, kind of like unlearning. So, yeah, here she is. Kiera joins, and we'll get her in.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kiera.
Hi.
I'm
How
so
are you?
excited.
I'm so excited to be here. I always forget how close I actually end up when this thing goes on. So it's always like half of my head, but
Yeah, your head is a little cut off, but
how is everyone doing? I'll try to back up even more. Okay. Better?
Love it, love it. Yeah, no, you're perfect. Yeah, and just, first of all, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that we're working on this together. This is like my first ever Talk About It Tuesday.
Ooh.
And it's really a place to talk about real issues, real topics, really in service of helping people in be their best selves. And I know that you and I are both really aligned on that mission and purpose in our lives. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm glad that you're the first person I get to talk to because I absolutely love what you do and your passion for it. And I'm excited that the blog post is going up about your business. But I started to talk about that today. We're going to talk about deconditioning. And another way that I like to put that is like we're trying to unlearn those things that are no longer serving us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I love about how we're going to talk about it today is through the lens of your expertise, which is human design. So I won't go into all that. I'll let you explain that to everybody about what human design is. But again, I just want to say thank you for being my very first
Oh
guest.
my gosh. Thank you. It's such an honor. I didn't realize I was your first one, but I love what you're doing so much. And this is so needed in the world. And it's truly an honor to be here at all, but to be your first one.
Thank
Whew,
you.
I didn't know. That's amazing. So excited to share a little bit about human design with your audience, and it's one of the most transformational things I ever found. And actually, a funny story is that Tosca and I met each other like right when I first got into human design. And I think you were one of the people that like I pulled aside like late at night, like drinking wine, and I was like, I know we just met. Like, can I have your birthday? I'm like, I'm gonna share something magical with you. But I've been so passionate about sharing it because it really is, it's so transformational, and it really gives you what I like to call like permission just to be yourself. And so what human design is it takes your exact birth time to calculate a body graph. And this body graph is kind of like an astrology chart on steroids. You end up with 9 different energy centers, and each energy center represents a certain sort of you're either going to be influenced in that area, or you're going to be super steady and stable in that area, depending on if it's open or defined. But the part that I love the best about it is just the overarching energy types. So there's 5 different energy types, and each energy type is actually meant to interact with the world totally differently. And when you hear about the 5 types and you truly understand like how different each of us are, you not only really get like how unique and different you are, but also I think you start to understand the importance of interacting with the world in your special way, and knowing that, if you don't do it, no one's ever going to be you exactly. So it's super liberating. I know that there might be some people that would love to check out their chart. This is information that's available for everybody. Decoding it can be a little challenging, which is why you might want to work with a reader, or definitely check out some of the free resources that I have. The link is actually in my bio. So if you go to Kiera with Love, you can click the link in the bio. I have free podcasts on it. I have a free blog on it, and just so much information. And my Instagram, I'm like always sharing human design tips as well. But if you want to look for your free chart, go to jovianarchive.com and just type in your exact birth details. If you can get it down to the minute, it's like super helpful. If you don't know when you're born, you can run the chart at, say, like the beginning hour that you think you might be born, and run it again at the end hour, and then just make sure that nothing changes. But what did you think, Tosca, when you had your chart
Oh my
read?
God, I loved it. You know, it's kind of like why I love kind of the conversations that we're having around even integrating human design into the coaching practice for clients that are interested and would benefit. What I love is it almost gives you permission and acceptance even more of who you are and your natural tendencies. That, you know, for me, it was very validating to say, oh, like, yes, that is how I am, and it's okay. And how
Yeah.
can I work with it versus like butt up against it all the time and beat myself up for things that I don't like about myself, you know? So when I got the design reading with you, first of all, more so than even the information you shared was your enthusiasm and excitement around helping me embrace like myself and my truth. And it was like every little nugget that you gave me, like I just saw how excited you were, which made me excited. um, so yeah, like I think that part of, you know, we're talking today about deconditioning, and part of that is understanding, first of all, like who you are at your core, to then know what's been layered on top of that, that's having you act in a way that maybe isn't your natural self, and being able to touch base with that. So it's kind of like my long-winded answer of like how,
Yeah.
you know, my experience with human design, I just absolutely love it. And every time like you're willing to share with me like more nuggets about it, I'm like, ooh, tell me more.
I love that. Well, Tosca is a generator, and you'll, as you guys learn about the types, you're going to understand generators are energy creators. They're just magical, magical beings. And so obviously I was like so excited to read yours. I was like, oh, like, this is so good. Your energy really feeds the world. And you really get, lit up when you're doing things that you're passionate about, which is very much aligned with what you're doing right now. So we started talking about this, and I always look at, deconditioning from a very, I guess, more scientific approach, or some might say it's like a woo-woo approach, because I am looking at like an astrology chart. But I look at sort of like the hard sort of facts data that I'm able to get from your birth time and say, this is where I see in your body where like you might be open. And it's interesting because, and where you're open, where you have an open center is where you're, susceptible to picking up other people's stuff. But it's so interesting because even though we take really different approaches to identifying areas that need to be deconditioned, I feel like a lot of what we do is similar when it comes to actually shedding those layers and getting back down to the heart of who you are, like your authentic nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I just want to say hi to the people who are joining, Semen and Igor and Joyfully Human. So excited to have everybody here. And yes, so one of the tools that I use in terms of really understanding what's you and what's not you is talking about inner critics. And separating those voices from who you are, because you're not you. And hi, Deb, so glad you're here. And Deb and I are on a panel together tomorrow. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, cool.
Which is about financial decisions. And we have lots of conditioning around financial decisions for sure.
For sure.
But yeah, like I think that's why I love these different modalities and these different tools that we can use in helping people to get back to their authentic selves, because something might resonate, for one person, but not for another. And I feel like human design is pretty new. Maybe it's not, but like, do you know, like, can you share like the origin of what this is all about?
Human design and I were born on the same year, 1987. So we're 33 this year. It actually was downloaded by a man named Ra Aruhu when he was in Ibiza. He was definitely like, I think he was on drugs. They don't say that in the history, but like he started meditating and then he downloaded the entire system that is human design for over an 8-day period and like didn't sleep. I mean, it's such a magical way, and it was so scientific, and it takes all of the planets into accountability, as well as I Ching, which is the Chinese astrology, Kabbalah, and the chakra system. And so the fact that he was able to download and channel all of this information without like looking it up in books, and it all matches up perfectly with these other modalities, is just It's crazy. So he himself was a manifester, which in human design, there's 5 different energy types, and our manifestors are here to really initiate and to put out into the world things that didn't exist before they came. And so it really actually makes a lot of sense. Manifestors have like a very specific strategy. And the way that Ra delivered his information was also very much in like a manifestor style. So it's very like, it's either for you or it's not for you. It's a little bit like more abrasive in the way that he put it out there. And so it's really taken a while for people to actually be able to like really unpack what it is and understand it. For me, the first time I heard about it, it was like a second language. I just jumped right in. I was like, I love this. It makes so much sense. But I think it's just now picking up traction that a lot more people who are, I want to say it's more of like a feminine, warm energy around human design that are really able to deliver it in a way that like makes sense, is digestible. And that's just starting to happen now over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I love that you just even in that story of how the information kind of came through and out of the gentleman that like, created slash discovered this is even just a different way that we even think about creation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other reason why I love this tool, is because it helps us to think differently about ourselves in like new ways. And to me, that helps us break patterns.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how you use this tool with your clients, to give them suggestions and ideas for how can they embrace parts of themselves. So I wonder if you could give some examples about like, okay, now that I know I'm an X, or that I
Yeah.
have an open whatever, what do I do with that? Like how do you work with clients and to not just to say, here's the information, but like, here's the information and here's the so what about the information that you can take action on.
Absolutely. And such a great point. I think that's really like the point of difference with human design, and the way I use it, there's always an action step. And so it's not like, oh, just like be careful. It's like, oh, there's this, but you now that you know this and we've identified that, try this. And human design is one big experiment. And so if I give you a piece of direction and you try it out for a couple of weeks and you don't like it, and it's not putting your life back into flow or getting you back into a space of ease and alignment, then like you can throw it away. Most of my clients end up finding a ton of success, and then they'll encounter like a little bit more roadblocks down the line of other stuff that we're able to like work together again, dive deeper into their chart. But I don't let people book closer than 3 months to me, because I'm just like, once I've seen them, I'm like, you got to go do the work. You have to trust the process. And if you come back before that, now we're just like, now you're making me your guru, and it's you're the one that has to like do the work and see what happens. But I'd love to talk a little bit about the energy centers and kind of how we and give some examples of how we work through this. So
yeah, and by the way, sorry to interrupt, but I also want to say, because we've got a lot of folks joining us, so I just want to invite people, if they have questions or things come up, to feel free and put them in the chat, and we can also, you've got an expert here live on human design, so like definitely take full advantage. But yeah, please go ahead and share.
Thank you for that. All your human design questions, please send them my way. And if you're watching this in post later on, please feel free to send me a DM. I love, as Tosca knows, I love this stuff so much. It's my number one passion, apart from my puppy. That's actually my number one passion. So if you're just tuning in, you can go to jovianarchive.com if you wanted to look up your free chart to understand your 9 energy centers. But the information I'm going to share right now, like either way, it's going to be helpful. You can go back and look at your chart later. So we have 9 energy centers in the body. It's very similar to the chakra system that you might be familiar with. And if you're not familiar with the chakra system, no problem. There's basically just these like little energy hubs in our body. And so in human design, there's 9 different energy centers that control a different part of us. When an energy center is open, it means that it is really susceptible to conditioning. It's susceptible to taking in everything around them. It's very like it's very much a product of its environment. And so I always think of our open centers like little sponges. Obviously, we do the most absorption from the age of 0 to 7 years old, and we're highly influenced, but we're constantly still picking up. An example is my solar plexus is open, and open solar plexus picks up other people's emotions. So of course, I picked up a ton of emotions that developed my perspective on the world when I was a kid. But I pick up emotions every single day, everywhere I go, and I watch so it's like a constant thing that I'm always working through. A lot of understanding how to navigate our centers it's everyday work. Like it never really stops, but is a tool to help you get back to alignment just simply by knowing what to do. So an open energy center, like I said, is the sponge. And if it's closed or defined, that means that it is consistent. It's an area inside of yourself that you can kind of rely on, right? It's one of the, you can come back home to it. It's not going to just be swaying with the wind. It's a little bit more steady. It's more of an anchor. So we always want to make sure that we're using our defined energy centers to go to for information. Each energy type and each person is going to have a specific energy center that's their authority. So you're going to have one that you're meant to make decisions from. Mine is my sacral, my gut. So I'm always meant to go based off a gut feeling. Tasca's is her solar plexus. So she's meant to go off of how she feels about something. But of course, if she tries to make a split decision, the way that maybe I could make a gut decision and decide right away on something, if you try to make a split decision, and you're really having an emotional high, you might not get the right actual read on whether or not that thing is for you. Or if you're having an emotional low, you might feel like, oh, I don't really want to do that right now. But when 3 days time passes, you're like, man, I wish I would have said yes to that. So we actually have different strategies. Your strategy is to wait 3 days, wait a couple of days, and wait till the emotions get flat. So this is just some very, just a glimpse into some of the information you can get from a body graph. But like I said, the energy centers that are defined, we don't have to worry so much about them getting hijacked or energetically hijacked from other people. So I thought what could be fun, Tosca, is what if we share, because there's 9 of them, and I don't think we have time to go through all 9. And there's information on all 9 in a podcast episode that I did that's in link in my bio if you guys want to check that out. But what if we talked about 2 of your open energy centers, and then how you kind of help to navigate and decondition in those areas? So I'll give my advice, but then I'd love to hear what you do to help as well, and then I'll share mine as well. Or do you want me to go first?
No, we can do me first.
Okay.
I don't mind getting naked in front of everybody. Everybody knows that. This is Talk About It Tuesday.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. But the other thing I do want to say, right, is that there isn't a bad or a good profile, right, about this information. It's not like, ooh, that's bad that center is closed, or that's good. There's no judgment in it. It's right, it's all about just acceptance of this is kind of your natural disposition, and how can you use it to your advantage now that you have this knowing. Or if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Like you said earlier, you just kind of throw it away and say, all right, I don't feel that way. Kind of like astrology, right? It's like, well, I'm not quite like the Virgo description here, or I am, or whatever. So I just want to offer that to the audience too, because, I think what we try to do in our work is help people in loving and accepting themselves. And so this is a tool to do that. It's not a tool to beat yourself up.
Oh, no. And I love that you said that there's no there's not even, there's energy centers that are open mean that these are areas that our soul came to learn in. And in fact, they have the highest potential for growth. And so if you came here, your entire body defined, it's great, wonderful, reliable, good for you. But the areas that you're going to be able to stretch and grow in the lessons there are going to be a little bit more limited than somebody who maybe has an open center and has to work through that and really continue to grow through it. So I think my open centers are a pain in the butt, truly, but they're also the areas I can see myself, my entire life has kind of gone in the direction of figuring out how to navigate them. And a lot of the work I do, and a lot of the growth I have is based off of trying to figure out how to better navigate those areas. Work I certainly would not be doing if it was just you know, if it was just already complete. So I like to look at them as a challenge. And I think that they make life like just super passionate, right? They say like when your mess becomes your message. That's for me for sure. I'm always like, here's how to control your emotions, or not control your emotions, but here's how to like manage all the things we feel just being alive as a human, and that comes from the solar plexus. But we're going to start with yours. Let's start with yours. So let's talk about you have an open spleen, right? And so in human design, our spleen represents survival. It's really our most primal energy center, and it's always just trying to like feel its way through the dark and determine like, is it safe here? And oftentimes what an open spleen will tend to do is it will tend to kind of like cling on to things a little bit longer than it needs to, just because it feels safe there. So I always get the visual when I think of an open spleen. It's like sometimes you could be clinging on to like the raft, like the life raft, right? And actually there's like a beautiful island like 4 feet away, but you won't even like turn your back and go look at what's over there because you're so focused on staying safe that you're not able to go into the area of abundance and prosperity. That is sort of how an open spleen reacts. Now, if you're looking at this and you find that your spleen is defined, and defined will be colored in, and open will be white. So open centers are white. I should have said that a while ago. Any defined center is always going to be colored in. A colored in spleen is a little bit more grounded in their fears, and they use their spleen a lot more sort of like intuitively to just like make calls about like, oh yeah, that feels good, that feels safe, or no, that doesn't really feel good, that doesn't feel safe. But there doesn't necessarily need to be like investigation. They're usually the ones that end up getting themselves in more trouble because like they're not going to double check to make sure they lock their door. That's like me. Like I'm like, oh, I'm safe. Like I just think everything is safe and good, and I definitely have taken way too many risks without there being a net. It's adulthood that's forced me back into being like, you got to slow down. Like you can't. Like I moved to New York City with like a duffel bag and like just bounced on couch. Like a defined spleen like would do that, but an open spleen might be like, let me save some money and make sure I'm good. So let's talk about open spleen. The characteristics in there are taking in other people's sense of fear, and sometimes clinging on to things that feel like they're safe even when they're not necessarily benefiting you. Does that resonate with you?
Oh my God, so much. It's like the Rolodex of my life is like going through like, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. And like I think one of the first things that I think about is, you know, I'm actually coming up on my 2 years of quitting corporate life this month. And when I think about the journey it took to detach, you know, and say like, is this really serving me right now? Like, is there something more out there for me? Right? Because it feels safe. It feels safe to have a paycheck. It feels safe to like know what it is that I'm walking into every day. Right? I understand the corporate environment, so I can navigate it. And so there's a comfort around it. So it took me months to get to the point where I could know that there's something else that will actually better serve me. And that's okay to walk away from this. It's okay to be uncomfortable with not knowing what's next. It doesn't mean I'm gonna like, you know, fall on my face.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that story for you. And it's so inspiring to see you have like made that shift. And I know I'm not the only one that was inspired by that. And I also feel like your work, the work you do, a lot of it is based in like actually overcoming those fears and encouraging people to let go of the stable thing that like might feel good, or might feel safe, but isn't actually what lights them on fire. And I feel like that's what you do with your coaching business.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, part of it is you teach what you know you've learned, or you know what you know. Yeah, my experience has been a lot of you know, unlearning, deconditioning, a lot of overcoming the fear and really embracing the truth of what's in my gut that is for me, you know. And even when I think about the idea of safety, right? And you know, I've dealt a lot with issues of abandonment, like an emotional abandonment, and that comes up over and over and over again in relationship. And it also is what makes me build barriers to relationships or put up walls with people, because I'm constantly trying to figure out what's safe here. Am I safe with this person? Is this person going to love me and leave me? Is this, can I trust this person? I don't know if that's related to spleen, but it's what,
it is.
It's what
That's
makes me think of.
Spot on.
So I guess what you were saying is, because I have an open spleen, maybe I am more susceptible to the negative implications of things like abandonment issues than somebody who might have a closed spleen, for example. Is that?
Yeah, you'll almost feel it it doesn't necessarily mean that you're susceptible to it happening to you. It just means that you'll preemptively worry about it, whether it's going to happen or not. Like it's something that you're more cautious of and afraid of, and it may end up, if you're not careful, the fear of abandonment or the fear of failure or the fear of like lack of security, say, in switching a new job, might actually end up being the driver that makes the decisions for you, right? And so like what we want to be careful of where we're open is we want to make sure that we're not making decisions out of those areas so that we don't have to withstand, say, the repercussions of abandonment. Like we don't want to stay with the wrong partner because we think, oh, well, at least he stays with me and no one else is going to stay with me, or stay at the wrong job because, well, you know what, it's safe here. Again, like think of that, like clinging onto the life raft, but there's like that abundant island right over there. And so it will just make you fear a little bit more and maybe cling a little bit longer. And you've done so much work to work through all that and like free that up, and look at you here with your own business and your 2-year anniversary. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Well, it is true. Like that a lot of clients, because, I do a lot of career coaching. So a lot of clients, right, when they come to me, they are operating from a place of fear, because they don't know what life looks like outside of that world because they've been in it so long. And actually, Bobby G, thank you so much for your question. He's asking, Tosca, what was the toughest thing about leaving the corporate world?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think the toughest thing was, for me, not knowing, the uncertainty of what was next for me. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that right now in this era of COVID and kind of not being in control, and seeing even more so how not in control we are of so much. So the hardest thing was just not knowing what's next, but also, but keeping the faith that I was going to figure it out, that what was meant for me would be mine. And that because of who I am and because I was following my heart, that I could feel safe in that. It doesn't mean that I didn't hug a bottle of wine every so often in the process. But yeah, the toughest part is saying to yourself, I'm going to be okay. And like, without a perceived net, of what's going to become next. So
I love that. That's actually a fantastic mantra for anybody with an open spleen, is I'm okay. I am okay, or I trust the process, or the universe is my net. I'm safe. Those are the type of words that really, really resonate, that we really need to hear when we have open spleen. Another great activity you can do if your spleen is open, or if you're just in a situation, because I can relate a lot to what you're seeing right now, and my spleen is closed, right? This information is for everybody. One of my favorite ways to really kind of break through some of that is actually not just to focus on like our fear of not getting what we want. Because I think we spend a lot of time being like, oh, if I never can leave my corporate job, like I'm never going to have what I want. And that's okay. That's your everyday life. Like you're already living that. So there's really nothing to be afraid of, because you're already, that's you right now. You're still like, so you're okay. Right. So what we need to do is we need to look at the fears around receiving the thing that we want. And when we can really start addressing, like when I get my independent job, when I go on my own coaching business, I am afraid that. And so what I do an activity at the top of the page. I write the goal that I'm trying to, or the thing I'm trying to manifest. And I write like, so in your example, it would be when I leave my corporate job, I am afraid that. And I force myself to write this sentence 20 times. And it's just like, let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. And maybe the next couple days too, you'll be, you know, going for a bike ride or going for a walk or driving, and you're going to go, oh, here's another one I'm afraid of. Like one of mine was like, I'm afraid that I'm going to like gain weight if I like don't go into work every day, right? Like that one took me a while to get to. And it reminded me like, oh yeah, like when I was in college and I like wasn't like working, like I gained a bunch of weight. That was like a deep one. So I had to get there. But essentially you want to write out all your list of fears. And then after you got them all out, you're going to write an affirmation, a positive affirmation where you spin the fear into a space where it's actually a win-win situation. And I want all of us to, you got to think win-win here. Like, I can leave my corporate job and be more successful. It doesn't mean I have to sacrifice money. So say the fear was, I'm afraid of, you know, not having enough money to pay my mortgage. It would be when I leave my corporate job, now there's no cap on how much money I can make, and I'm going to be like extra abundant. So we go through, we throw away the fear list, rip it up, burn it, or just toss it in the trash, whatever you want, and just keep the list of affirmations. And that is really the way to break through some of that really sticky stuff.
I love that, you know, and I love talking about mantras and affirmations because, you know, especially I have a lot of clients, right, that come from the corporate world, that come from, you know, I come from it. I come from like a very different mentality about like, how do you make things happen? And it's the doing and the doing. And if I just do more, I will get this. And sometimes I fall in that trap myself as an entrepreneur. If I just keep doing, then I will somehow get more clients. But the reality of what you're saying about mantras and about affirmations is about the energy that you're attracting. It's about calling it into your life before it even happens. It's about giving yourself comfort about what is possible, even if you may not 100% believe that affirmation or that mantra. But if you're close and you're like, I think I could believe it someday, there's real power in that. And I just want to, you know, with the people listening, you know, I just want to invite you to try it out, you know, and give it a shot. And that's what I think all of what we're talking about is about. It's about just trying new things to find things that serve you. And, you know, for me, a big part of leaving, right, was I had the whole like limiting belief system, very limiting, you know, like, and so I created this mantra and I use it as my hashtag now, which is it's all possible.
I love that.
So every time I had a limiting belief, or you're not going to be able to do that, or you can't do that because you don't look like that, or that's not, you know, you don't have that skill, whatever. And I would just say it's all possible. I would just say it to myself over and over again to help me decondition from limiting beliefs. And you know what? It really worked because over time, I eventually was like, hell yeah, everything is possible, you know?
I love that one. And that's such a good one to use universally, right? Because that covers like whatever it is that you're trying to achieve or manifest. If it's all possible, it's just all possible. That's so, right. I love that one. That's so, so good. And to your point too, like, I think the piece of this that's so empowering with, you know, looking at this, the underbelly of yourself or into your shadow, right? It's kind of like, when you pull these things out of the dark and shed light on them, just like with a shadow, like it shrinks. And so a lot of the things that trip us up, like our fear, we're so afraid to feel through the fear, or we're so afraid to feel through the real emotion that we sort of like short circuit ourselves and we push it away and then it gets bigger. Isn't like when you talk about something with a friend, like all of a sudden it completely shrinks in size. It's like the same thing with a lot of these fear. Like when I wrote out, like mine was like, I'm afraid I'm going to gain weight if I don't go into the office. I was like, that is such, BS. Like I'm going to have time to work out. Like why would I? But it was a real thing in there. And so we pull them out, they immediately shrink. And like that in itself is super powerful. So all around. And then I love your mantra that people can use. That's a really good default one. Like all is possible. I think I'm going to borrow that one from you.
Yes. And for anybody who's listening here, share the mantra that you want to adopt for yourself in this moment, you know? Yeah, and you're getting some love. You're getting some love with your guests
Thanks,
here.
Al. That's my friend Allison. I always love how I feel talking to you too. She's a sister after my own soul, and it really, there's nothing like that when you can just connect with someone that was like, I see you, I feel what you're feeling. It's not unique to you, and with everything that we're all going through right now, like it's a lot. It's really important. We need our network more than ever to have these
Yeah,
conversations.
I love that you're bringing this up because one of the things I talk about a lot is like get the support that you need,
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, if we backtrack, like,
Hmm.
into like the human design elements that we're talking about, it's like where might that come from that where people are so hesitant to get the support that they need? Like, is that an open, I don't know, like an open heart or a closed heart, or is it not that easy to kind of say this might be because of X?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, I think that a lot of it is systematic, and the
Mm.
way that we're sort of raised to like, especially when I look at like my parents' generation, therapy is like, oh, went to therapy? Like, are you like on the brink of like a mental breakdown? It's like, no, I just wanted to like work on my brain a little bit. Like, it seems to have been so, uh, it wasn't something people were proud of. It wasn't something people were connecting with. And I think that we're part of like a hustle culture where the more you have going on, the better. Like, the more success, the more accolades. It's just like when you ask someone how they're doing and they say good. I think
Mm.
the system that we created really supports us always being loved for being perfect. I mean, look at social media
Mm.
too, right? Like, it's like the beach vacation or the new baby, but everything looks great. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we see, and it all looks glossy and nice. And so I think like more than ever, we just have to try to keep checking ourselves, and for our own well-being as well as for the well-being of our community. Like, if you ask me how I'm doing every time and I'm like, I'm amazing, I love my fiance, my puppy didn't bite me 25 times today, I like didn't second guess who I am 100 times, like that would be a disservice to me and you, because now I
Yeah.
think you're loving me for someone I'm not, and you think that I have got my shit together when I don't. So it actually doesn't, neither of us walk away feeling good. So I think that just getting to the part of like the deep authenticity, but we can be conditioned in any area in our body. If you have one open center or if you have no open centers, we can still be conditioned to believe that we're meant to show up perfectly. And we got to break that together. Don't worry, guys. I'll keep showing up with all my flaws. And that is my
Oh my God.
commitment to you guys. I will never be perfect. I will never be perfect. It's not possible.
Cheers to that. Cheers to our perfect
Yes,
imperfections.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh, we just went down such a great rabbit hole. Thanks, Constance, for saying I'm always spitting the wise facts. Oh, I love
Uh,
that.
we just, a woman that just joined from Vital Voice training, and they just launched a huge paper on authenticity, which is what we were just talking about,
Yeah.
about which is a very complicated and convoluted topic. But at the end of the day, I think that's what we're talking about, right? Which is how can
Yeah.
you tap into your true self and make decisions from that place,
Hmm. Hmm.
right, versus making decisions from the place where the conditioning really has like set in. I don't know, is that how you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It goes back to like saying like when we make a decision from an open center, we're making it from our not self, right? So like
Mm.
open spleen, like if you had just made the decision, I'm going to stay at my job because it's secure, that would be you living your not self. And then like you make
Mm.
one unaligned decision and it's like the spine. The whole
Mm.
thing kind of gets knocked out of alignment. And so what I use human design for is just like like a roadmap or a tool to get readjusted, and in a way that's really kind of black and white. And again, if it doesn't feel correct for you, you can throw it away. But most people walk away saying like, this just gave me so much permission to do the things I'm already doing, but this time like with like more gusto and more confidence, and know that like, yes, I make decisions straight from my gut. I know right away. I don't need to sleep on it. Like, and again, everyone's approach is completely unique, but the goal, 100% to what you just said, the goal is always to get us back to the most authentic version of self that we were the minute that we came into this world, right? We were completely whole. And then the world just like imprints on us and tells us who to be. And so human design is my roadmap back home to just who I am. That's it.
Oh, I love that roadmap back home to who I am. That's like, that's like slogan worthy right there. Like, and I just want to, shout out again midstream here, because like, Kiera, I just want to support you so much, is that you do these human design readings, that you guide people through understanding themselves better through this scientific, methodology of understanding self. And we've been talking about what it means, what your open centers mean, closed centers, and how do you work with that. And I know we talked about my open spleen, and I'm not gonna lie, like when you told me open spleen, you know, the first thing that I said to myself, and this is horrible, this is like the negative self-talk, was you can live without a spleen. Great, I have an open spleen. What's the, like, I was just talking shit about myself.
Wow.
Right? Like, it was like, I've come a long way since then, but I'm just saying, like, but that stuff is natural. I think when we're so hard on ourselves, or we want to be, like, we're so used to beating ourselves up versus just saying, I have an open spleen, and like, I'm, you know, whatever, you know. So I just want to say that, like, you know, I
love that you're like, we'll just do without it then. Get it out.
Right. It's like, oh, you know, F it, you know. But I think that, you know, sometimes, yeah, I guess it's how people process information is, you know, is different, and just being mindful of how, you know, how you want to talk to yourself. And that goes back to what we were saying about affirmations, right? And it's like, how can you be your own best friend in the process of being your best self, you know, versus being the person that beats you up all the time.
Yeah, I love that. And I can share my process of doing that, because it just felt, to be honest, and all is possible, but it felt really almost impossible. I felt a lot of resistance around giving myself grace and being gentle, because I'm just so hard on myself by nature. And so I kind of started to imagine that there was two versions of me, right? There was me, and then there was like a separate me that maybe was a friend of mine. And so I would say, like, I would have to stop myself and say, like, if you wouldn't say this to a friend, like, don't say it to her. And I almost had to like make it like another, like, she's not even you, like, just be so kind and gentle to this person. Eventually I was able to sort of like connect that to like my inner child and start to talk to my inner child in that way, and like just picture like my cute little girl face and be like, would you say that to her? Like, be nice. And now over years I finally can like just do it for me. I can just be like, why would you, like, come on, like, you know, I can like stick up for myself. But it's a battle. Like, I constantly need to like intervene on behalf of me, for me.
Oh my
Especially
God.
when I'm hungover. If I'm hungover, it's done. Like, we're done. It's just not going to be a day where kindness is present up here for me, you know, so it's extra effort.
And that's why I just love, like, that we're having this conversation today, because I think that when you've walked the talk, when you've done the work yourself, when you've used the tools, it's so powerful, you know. And that's why I know that you are so powerful with your clients, because you're not just pulling shit out of a book that says, like, hey, try this, you know, like, I know a lot of things are tried and true because you walked that path, you know. And actually, I'm very curious. We were going to talk about you too, and your So I want to hear more about like your stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about mine. Okay, so I'll get naked for you. My open head, my open, I just gave it away. I have an open head. And I also have an open solar plexus before, which I shared. So open head is really popular. Tosca's is defined because she's rare, like a butterfly. It's less than 10% of the population actually have a defined head. So if you're listening right now, there's a 90% chance that yours is open. open head tends to pick up on inspiration, ideas, everywhere that you go, right? It's great because like oftentimes you can just be like, oh, I was thinking the same thing you were thinking. I was just going to say that. Like it's a nice, beautiful attribute to have. On the flip side, you also pick up everybody else's questions, and oftentimes obsess over things that like really aren't even yours to solve. And so a classic example of this is like when I was in my 20s, everyone around me started getting engaged or long-term relationships. People started getting married, and I used to like sit up in bed at night and be like like literally like my heart beating out of my chest, like, oh my god, am I gonna like die alone? Like I have no one, like what am I gonna do, right? Straight up until like the day that I met my fiance, like I would still panic about like, oh my god, I'm like as soon as we started dating and then we eventually got engaged, you would think I would get well rest, but no. Then I started sitting up wondering like, oh my God, am I going to have like no career now that I'm engaged? Like, what am I, like, what, like, it's a never ending process of worrying about other people's agendas or ideas or fears, right? Mm-hmm. So like I was picking up on the society timeline of, okay, like you probably should be with someone right now. And then later on, once I had that, I was picking up on like the New York mentality of like, go for your career. But neither of those things were actually ever even real for me. Like when you really asked me like what I was worried about in life and the things that truly like, it wasn't even any of that, but I made it like my number one obsession. And so the key when you have an open head is that you want to ask yourself, are these questions mine? Right? Or am I doing this for me? Like, am I doing this for me? Are these questions mine? And my favorite activity for an open head is to do a brain dump. And I try to do one every single morning. And I haven't been able to lately because of the puppy. And I can feel when I haven't done it. And in fact, like the whole center of my universe kind of shifts over a little bit. But you just wake up and you write 3 pages first thing in the morning, like freehand. What it does is it helps to like untangle a bunch of the stuff. So I'll get like everything I'm picking up from other people on the first page, questions about things that I have to do, and then by like the second and a half to the third full page, I really feel like I get back down to like me again, like I get to my soul, like I can hear my priorities, and it's calm and it's beautiful, and I'm like, I have a great inner guide that I'm constantly shoving to the side to fit the, you know, perspective and perceptions of other people. It's by Julia Cameron, if you're familiar. She wrote a book called The Artist's Way. This is like her methodology. She calls them the morning pages. Highly suggest it, honestly, for anyone. But if you have an open head, it is the number one thing you can do, even more than meditation. Because I'll tell you, meditation throws everything out, and it's great, but you never got to like untangle. So I suggest do it before you meditate or after you meditate. Still give yourself, because there's going to be stuff you want to pull out and keep. There's going to be a lot that you just want to throw away.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting because, you know, one of the things that I thought of when you were talking was that so many people, I think especially in times like this, right, where you have so much fear, you have so much like disruption, and then I think there's a lot of people that kind of lose themselves. They lose their own voice, their own knowing, and have to come back to it. And I don't know, like it sounds like this, you know, open head or whatever, right? Can be a part of that, but I'm sure there's other reasons why that might happen. And I'm just curious, like, if you have any other suggestions for when people just feel like, I don't even know what I want anymore. There's all these thoughts, you know, filling their head, and like they're not theirs. I mean, the journaling, it sounds like an awesome way to get back to your truth. And like, I'm curious, like if there's anything else that you've done or that you know has been successful with your clients.
Yeah, I have 2 things. One of them, I'll go back to human design really quickly, is to look at your authority in human design. And so your authority is going to really be the thing that guides you. So for me and you, Tosca, your authority is solar plexus emotion, right? But you know that you and I, as generators and manifesting generators, we do best when we respond to something. So really for us, like we can tell by like how our body reacts to it. And each authority center is going to act a little bit differently, but I can tell you guys kind of across the board, we are going to feel something inside of our body. The smaller the opportunity, the smaller the response. The larger the opportunity, the wider the response. But I think we can all kind of relate a little bit to this like internal feeling. So when we feel like something feels like a yes, it's kind of like chest open, shoulders roll back, heart slightly comes forward. The world around you is going to feel like it's expanding. Like, I can see more here. It's like more clear. When something feels like a no, again, if it's a small opportunity, it could be really subtle. When it's big, it's going to be huge. But you're going to feel like the gut is being pulled back and away from you almost. Shoulders roll forward, and the world sort of feels like it's contracting around you. That is a really common way to really use your use your body and use your internal guide to tell, like, is this feeling good for me, or is not feeling good for me? If we try to use our mind to tell ourselves what isn't good, we're usually trying to convince our body of something that it doesn't want, or it's not right. So be really careful of hearing yourself use the word should. Anytime that you use the word should, I want you to replace that and throw in the word I want instead, or the words I want. So I want to go to that party tonight. You might be like, oh God, I don't want to go to that party. But when we say should, our body really can't even decipher. It feels like, I don't know what's happening outside of me. So there could literally be like a gun to your head telling you, you have to go to that party. So if you say you should, fine, go. But if we say I want, our body really gets to tell us like that's true or that's not true. So that's like one of my biggest, and that one is human design. Again, there's 7 different authorities. Some people are really meant to talk stuff out and just listen to the frequency of their voice when they say things out loud. For other people, they're really meant to really, like for you, is you are responding, but you are meant to usually wait a couple of days until the emotions have gotten flat. So we all have our own way. Again, I have a podcast episode all about it. Guys, link is in the bio if you wanted to check that out. And then the other aspect of it would be this. There's a work, I'm going to plug her. Her name is Lacey Phillips. She has, her Instagram is called To Be Magnetic. And she has a really cool assignment in there that I do work with my clients. This is in addition to also doing morning pages, the Julia Cameron stuff that I love. But she has us identify our authentic code. And really anybody can do this without going through her exact questions. But essentially we're looking for 4 pillars of things that always, that kind of represent our entirety, that represent our authenticity. These are the things that we want to spend money on. These are the things that we want to spend our time on. This is where every single aspect of our life kind of needs to be pointing towards these 4 things. And if it's not falling within our authentic code, then we can just say, oh, actually, it doesn't really match my authentic code. This is not a free resource that she has on her website, but essentially you can sit down and ask yourself, like, what are the things that I spend the most time on? What are the things that I'm spending the most money on? What are the things that are like most organized in my life, right? And for each question, you want to answer 4 different answers. And then ultimately, you want to figure out like the 4 that you see the most and then write them out. So I can share mine if it's helpful. My authentic code is expression. So that's being able to speak and express myself. That's also being able to like kind of wear what I want, especially since coming home from quarantine. I realized like I really do have a style that I didn't know that I gravitate towards, which is like always ripped denim. Sorry, Grandma, when you watch this. I love ripped Levi's, or just Levi's, like vintage Levi's. I'm wearing a lot of like t-shirts. I've been wearing like, just different things, but also speaking and facilitating and putting myself out in spaces. That could be through writing. That could be how I express myself on Instagram. My other one is connection. So that's staying connected to my community. Also spirituality, my dog, my fiance, obviously family, friends. And then I have freedom. So freedom is a big one. Freedom for me means that I can like work when I want, that I can have money, like I don't have to worry about financial security. I can travel, really live the life I want out of choice. And then the, which one am I missing? I said expression. I said freedom, connection. Oh, obviously, health and beauty. So those are two things for me that are like pivotal when I look at what I spend my money on, when I look at what I spend my time on, when I look at what I'm Googling, guys, look at what we're Googling late at night. Like, what is keeping you up? Like, what are you so lit up about? Yeah, Constance, dog first, fiance second. Thank you for catching that. That's the right order.
Oh my gosh.
So, and he knows, he's always like, you've never loved me like this. And I was like, true. But yeah, when I look at where I spend my money and my time, those things kept sticking out for me. And so I encourage everyone to do some form of this work. If you want to check out Lacey's website, you can. But you also just look at these aspects, look at these elements for yourself. Like, what really is, where's my time and my energy going? Or where do I want my time and my energy to go? And then when you have your 4 pillars, it makes it really easy for you to constantly ask yourself, does this align with my authentic code? And if it doesn't, then maybe it's going to be a no. I like the phrase, especially for 2020, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
I love that, and it reminds me of the work that I do around identifying client values, right? And we all have a lot of values, and then how do you really get to the ones that are the biggest, like, drivers, for example, in terms of the place that you choose that you want to work is like, so for example, if like growth is like a huge value for you, then you want to make sure you're going into an environment where you can grow and learn, and that's a priority for the organization because it's a priority for you. It just kind of made me think of that. The other thing that I love that you said that I think is the unlock to life, if I can even say that, which is like, our body has so much information, and how can we get closer to that? And our body can help us find our center. And so even like when COVID first started, I've had a yoga practice for several years now, and I just ramped up that. It was just like I had to like do yoga like 3 times as much as I was, because I needed that centering. And I needed like to be able to get back to my beliefs and my answers for what was going on and what was going to drive my decisions, and not like, media and hysteria, at the time, if we recall what was going on then. So, of course, being informed at the same time. But yeah, like that's, I'm so glad that you shared. And I know that I can't believe we're like running out of time.
I know.
I'm like, no, we need a part 2. But look, please share again where people can find you, where they can follow you, and also share the special deal that you're doing for people who are connected here.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. And hi, everyone that's joined. And thanks, guys, for all the love and laughs in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. So today we're talking about human design. It is just, you can go down the rabbit hole. If you're interested and excited by it, like, I highly encourage also people to do some Googling. That's how I started. But just be careful when you Google that you don't take each piece you discover about yourself as like the end all be all. There are like 700 different components that go into it, truly. And so it's part of a larger story. I would absolutely love to hear from you if you're interested in booking a reading. I do have a special for everyone that joined today or listens to this later, anybody that is a client of Tosca's, and it's Tosca 50 for $50 off of your reading. I have a link in my bio where I have free resources, including a couple podcasts, a blog, as well as a booking link where you can jump in there, plug the code in, book with me, and then just like, if you don't follow me, give me a follow, because I do tons of human design information. Right now, I got to be honest, it's a lot of puppy stuff, but I'm gonna stop. I had a self-talk moment today. I said stop with the puppy and start talking about human design again. So you guys have my commitment on that. He'll only be in the stories, okay? Love you, Aunt Pat. Welcome. We're just closing up, but it's nice to see you here. I think that was everything, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, just for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tosca Di Matteo. I'm founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and I do career coaching one-on-one, and I also do marketing consulting and organizational culture change. So it's really all about, I'm all about detoxifying environments and living your best life. So for more on me, you can go to toscadimateo.com. You can email me there, set up even time to chat if you're considering getting support for yourself in these crazy times. And I hope to do more Talk About It Tuesdays with additional guests. Yes.
Tosca is an amazing resource, you guys. She's such a magical human. And please, 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 if you're coming from me, go give her a follow. She's absolutely incredible. She has the best resources and she's such a beautiful soul. Thank you so much for having me on your first Talk About It Tuesday.
Thank you, Kiera. This was so much fun. And I just appreciate all the value you gave to everybody that's listening now and will listen later, because you really shared some amazing tools and some information. And that's how we change the world. One person at a time learns a new way of being, and it just ripples. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you
Happy
next
Tuesday.
time. All right. Take care.